Okay, this is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Timothy Dahl, waiting for the big thunderstorm, I hope.
Yeah, they've been teasing with those on and off throughout the summer, and they kind of don't really happen. They happen for a second, and then they're like done.
They pass us by. I don't get it. I love thunder.
I do too. I do
Well,
too.
I don't know.
I just like action in general. So that's
I love any kind of wind or big booms. So that's where I get off. Now, I like my science journals. And
I do.
The latest study published in the Journal of Neuropsychology has shown that, as if we didn't know, religious fundamentalism is in part probably the result of functional impairment in the prefrontal cortex which causes diminishing cognitive flexibility and open-mindedness. Now, cognitive flexibility, it allows humans or organisms to update beliefs in light of new evidence.
Right.
It's crucial, really, a mental characteristics for adapting to new environments because it allows individuals to make more accurate predictions about the world under changing conditions. Now, as we both know, religious beliefs are not usually updated. As a matter of fact, I can't remember when they were ever updated in response to new evidence or scientific explanation, and are therefore strongly associated with conservatism. They're fixed, they're rigid, they help promote predictability and coherence to the rules of society among individuals within the group. And of course, fundamentalist groups generally oppose anything that questions or challenges their beliefs or way of life, and they're aggressive towards anyone who doesn't share their specific set of supernatural hoaxes, beliefs, especially towards science. Right. Okay, so to investigate the cognitive and neural systems involved in religious fundamentalism, a team of researchers led by Jordan Grafman of Northwestern University conducted a study that utilized data from Vietnam vets that had brain damage to the prefrontal cortex, which plays a critical role related to religious indoctrination. So they did CT scans and they analyzed comparing vets that had brain trauma to healthy vets. And the survey assessed that, well, what do you think? Prefrontal cortex damage.
Right.
And as if we didn't already know, they were half brain dead or just damaged.
Do you think men have problems with this? Because they're usually a lot more rigid than women, especially as they get older. And what's going on there? You think it's
well? Look, I think fanaticism, especially religious, does not have a gender barrier. I think.
Well, that's something else. Yes.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, men get hit in the head more often than women usually. So
there's that. I mean, I think also just based on the imbalance of like pay or just social standing in general. It basically almost creates like a religious reaction in terms of just, hey guys, this is working out for me, and this is a simple solution. Everything's just working out here, and then basically confronted with any kind of thing where they have to adapt, they're already locked into their own religion of domination of society. Maybe
stubbornness.
Yeah, that's my theory. That's my theory.
Right. And you're so right. I think that also women have to be, I mean, those that breed, they have to be more adaptable to circumstances that are forever changing. I mean, if you have a child in the house, the circumstance is always changing. You have to adapt. You have to find new methods of dealing with things. You need to educate yourself about how to even handle this little need machine and what it needs. So women are usually, I think, not only, mentally, psychologically, psychically,
well, women have their own problems, but rigidity is not usually one unless you are a born fundamentalist.
And I'm quite physically flexible.
Ooh.
That helps. That helps.
Speaking of women who are flexible on mentally and physically, did you hear about the world record of rowing? 4 women just broke it, rowing from San Francisco to Hawaii.
Wow.
They did it in 34 days, 14 hours, and 11 minutes. And they would take, they just go nonstop. They would take 2-hour shifts. So I would guess 2 would row at a time. I don't know how they actually rotated it, but definitely people would have to sleep. But they'd always do a 2-hour shift. And yeah, and that's there's sailing races. I think the Pacific race, I mean, it's a seasonal thing. So I guess they're doing that now before hurricane or typhoon season kicks in.
I'm glad they've topped the record, but I just have to ask the question, why the fuck would you even want to do that? I don't get it.
People want to climb mountains. They want to do all types of stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
Tor Heyerdahl, the famous book Kon-Tiki. I mean, they did it with a raft, but that was more of a anthropological theory being tested of how Polynesians shared DNA with Peruvians and all that stuff. And they were just,
well, I mean, as having Viking blood, I mean, it's no, you're no stranger to, you know, rowing the boat from here to.
Did you ever read
Hawaii.
that book? Did you ever read that book?
What book?
Kon-Tiki.
I have not.
Yeah, they just tied together a bunch of logs and kind of hit some currents and went to Polynesia via South America.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, but you know, they would have their food supply would be like stolen and hijacked by Humboldt squid, which are they're kind of like they're kind of like these like they're not the giant squid that swim way deep that are like fucking 70 feet. They're about like 8 or 9 feet, and they're clever little things. And
well, that brings us up to the story I sent to you about, was it seals that were knocking people out of boats recently?
Well, I mean, there's a mama seal in Hawaii right now in this one harbor, I don't know which island, that is kind of being really aggressive with swimmers. So they're kind of telling you not to go in there. It's, you know, it's with its newborn cub, and basically any mammal female with a newborn, no matter what the size, they'll just destroy anything. It's in their nature, I guess.
I can't really blame them, but there's been a lot of action with, you know, the sharks, humpback whales. I just saw 4 or 5. Well, you know, I do my research. 4 or 5 humpback whales on the southern coast of South Africa surrounded a shark and ate its liver.
Those were killer whales, not humpbacks.
Killer whales, excuse me.
Yes, there's no way that'd be amazing if humpback whales did that.
They were killers.
There's a family of killer whales down in South Africa that are
friends of yours.
No, they have taken and acquired specific tasting to great white shark livers. They kind of just like a dominant apex predator like ourselves or chimpanzees. They'll just waste everything else, and they'll just like let the corpse just sink to the bottom because they just wanted that liver.
Well, I mean, it was. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems unusual for them to hunt in packs, but I guess they're so hooked on the liver that they just surround a shark.
No. That's wrong. It's wrong. They hunted. Killer whales definitely hunt in packs.
You would think one would be enough.
No, they gang up, and they have all types of clever ways, and they're smart as shit, and they have no mercy to what they're hunting.
How big is the biggest killer whale?
Off the top of my head, 36 feet, I would say. I think that's my guess. You have to fact check me. Simon, can you fact check me?
That would be like two of the biggest hippos lined back to back. Oh,
I
want to know the weight.
What kind of whale?
A bull killer whale. I think they get up to like around 36 feet is my guess. That's why
I want to know the weightage.
Well, that's the big problem. That's why they had those serial killer whale that was in that documentary Blackfish, because, you know, it was going nuts because you can't put a fucking 36-foot mammal in a swimming pool. It's not particularly a migratory.
They can get up to 21 feet in.
The bull though.
The bull killer whale. Yeah.
I'm way off. 21. No, I think it's
What's
more.
The weight? What's the weight?
I think it's more.
11,860.
Holy moly. Well, I don't care how tall they are. They're fucking huge.
All I'm checking.
All right, Tim, you check that. I want to talk about something quite a bit smaller that is now in the news. So scientists are turning dead spiders into necrobots. All right. So when mechanical engineering graduate student Faye Yap, what a name, saw a dead spider in her hallway, they got her to thinking about whether it could be used as robotics or some kind of component. So spider legs can grip large, delicate, and irregularly shaped objects firmly and softly without breaking them. So, and she's thinking about this in collaboration with mechanical engineer Danielle Preston. Yap and her colleagues at Rice University discovered a way to make a dead wolf spider legs unfurl. Dead wolf spider legs
okay? I'm following.
Unfurl and grip onto objects. So they call this new type of robotics necrobotics.
Oh boy.
So spiders don't have muscles for extension, but instead they move their legs via a hydraulic pressure.
Cool.
So they have what's called a prosoma chamber, which contracts, sending inner body fluid into their legs, making them extend. Oh. So the team inserted a needle into the spider's prosoma chamber and created a seal around the tip of the needle with a glob of super glue. You know, I always carry super glue with me, Tim. You've seen this on tour.
I know.
Just in case I run into a wolf spider that I need to, you know.
Well, you know why super glue was invented, right? You know, it's a military invention. We can talk about this after the story.
Wounds. So
Yes, wounds, exactly.
squeezing a tiny puff of air through the syringe was enough to activate the spider's legs, achieving a full range of motion in less than 1 second. So they took the spider, placed the needle in it, not knowing what was going to happen. And then they had an estimate of where they wanted to place the needle, and it worked the first time right off. They didn't even believe this was possible. So the team were able to make the dead spider grip onto a small ball and use that experiment to determine peak grip force. Then they demonstrated the use of a dead spider to pick up delicate objects, electronics, including having this gripper remove a jumper wire attached to an electric breadboard and then move a block of polyurethane foam. So while most man-made robotic components are quite complex to manufacture, spiders are complex already and in plentiful supply. Just come over to my house. The concept of necrobotics proposed in this work takes advantage of the design created by nature that can be complicated or even impossible to replicate. Also, spiders are biodegradable, so using them as robot parts could cut the amount of waste in robotics. So then the final part of the experiment was they coated the wolf spiders in beeswax and found that its mass decrease was 17 times less than the uncoated spider over 10 days. So, I mean,
they just intuitively did that. That's
they just, I mean, let's put it, Miss Yap had an idea and she went with it.
This is the future of prosthetic limbs, probably, and all this, and like bionic strength. This is pretty amazing. I checked the largest bull killer whales, 32 feet. I'm still ashamed that I said 36 feet. I'm furious.
It was 32 feet.
Well, the biggest ones you'll find are 32. Those are the biggest ones. But still, I'm ashamed I said 36. I'm furious about that.
We knew Simon was underestimating size.
Well, I mean, no, he's correct that a typical,
normal.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't deal with anything normal around here. Christ on a crucifix.
Oh my God. Well, for anyone that wants to enter, officially the USA Mullet Championship is underway.
Oh Lord!
And it's kind of like a national thing. It's like at state county fairs and all that stuff.
Tennessee, where do they have it?
I think the finals are in Tennessee, but right now they're doing all they're kind of around the nation.
Well, Tim, what if it happens when we're down there? I'll give you a haircut.
I would go. I'm more interested in the beard and mustache championship they have in Vegas every year. Like those get really fucking far.
All right, let's go back to the mulletronics.
Oh, well, I mean,
did you ever have a mullet, Tim?
No, not officially. I mean, no, it never. I mean, I definitely had a little business in the front party and the back action that just kind of would happen.
But that's below the belt.
Oh, gotcha. No, I'm talking about the Canadian passport, which is it just kind of just happened.
Has there ever been a more unattractive hairdo? I can't think of one.
Remember when Lou Reed had that extreme one, like in the late 80s? That was pretty embarrassing. Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. So what do you think about all this? I mean, monkeypox. I don't want to, jump on the mass hysteria bandwagon, but New York already has 1,000 of these fucking cases.
How many people are in New York? 9 million? 7 million?
Yeah. I mean, 8 million officially, but on any given day, it's in the double digits.
I'm going to take my chances.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's like,
the issue
orgies and stuff are spreading it.
Yeah, it seems that way. And I mean, face it, it's been a couple of decades, if not lifetimes, the last time I went to a good orgy. I don't think I have a problem with that. I mean, anyone who doesn't have monkeypox, maybe the next show.
Well, I mean, it's not as scary as the Marburg virus that's just popped out in Ghana, which has existed for a while, but that's kind of like a cousin to Ebola. And that's just like, hey, I have a headache one day. And then all of a sudden all your internal organs are just bleeding, and 88% death rate. So
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's again the virus sphere. It's so many viruses. Who the hell knows
they've been
why
happening.
they choose to they choose to focus on? I mean, there's where people getting hit on the head with a fucking hammer and dying on the subways at this point. I don't know.
Yeah.
And
They call it in New York the summer of the shark, but definitely the most dangerous experience is just driving to the beach. I mean, that's like considerably more dangerous than swimming.
yeah, well, Florida being the epicenter of all things maniacal, and absolutely a state that is so wrong in so many ways. Although we have good friends there, we love
Shark
going
attack
there.
capital of the world.
Well, that's one good thing going for it. So in Claremont, Florida, a 56-year-old woman was arrested after allegedly waving a pitchfork and a black whip behind a grocery store. Now, according to the arrest affidavit, Lisa Stone was attempting to sell teddy bears behind a public store. The store manager reportedly told the Florida Highway Patrol troopers that, Sloan, Lisa Sloan, used a pitchfork to stab a minivan. All right. So at some point, she began yelling and running around with a pitchfork and a whip, and reportedly was told to stop by the troopers, but she refused. And a trooper told the local news station that it appeared she was highly intoxicated on some sort of stimulant drug. Although,
I wonder what,
she told the police she felt no pain anymore and that God was in control. Again, probably prefrontal damage. She was eventually taken into custody, and while in the patrol car, she allegedly unbuckled her seatbelt and started kicking toward the window. What an idiot.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, Claremont, that's near, Central Florida, near Orlando. Those were probably stolen carny teddy bears. I mean, that's the joke about all those carnival games. Like, whatever, it costs $2 or something to play the game. If you happen to win, the prize is something that costs 5 cents to make. Like, hey, you still lose, loser. What was your carny game of choice growing up when it rolled through town?
Anything that involves shooting.
Did you like the crossbow more, or that kind of like machine gun BB gun thing?
BB gun, and also, I mean, I can sink a ball in a hole. I can do a shuffleboard.
I remember I was told to get lost when I was in high school. There was a crossbow game, and I fucking totally redirected the crossbow and fucking shot a fucking teddy bear between the eyes, like one of the prizes on the wall. It was just like a joke, but I definitely went right through the fucking thing.
Hope they gave it to you.
Oh no, they're furious about it.
Not that teddy bear. It could have been worse. You could have used a pitchfork.
If I'm paying a couple $bucks for the game, I want to be entertained. And I thought that was a funnier way to do it.
I've been known to carry a stuffed animal or two out from Coney Island occasionally back in the heyday. Anyway,
let's see what else. Tennessee cop story. It's not that interesting.
It's the summer. We're low on events. Plus,
there was that other, not to end it on a dark note, there was that another incel gun incident in Iowa. Did you see that family?
No, what happened? Tell me. I didn't.
Just this totally random family of 4 went on their little summer camping trip. A mother and father and their 2 kids. And son goes
tent, right.
The guy just goes into their tent and just blows away the family. And the boy, the 9-year-old boy, somehow escaped and like ran to the other campsites, like help. And then they found the guy who shot himself in the woods. Like, he killed himself. I know.
Why couldn't he have just taken himself out? That's what
he did. He did.
Hello. First off,
I don't know.
Off yourself first and spare everybody else the grievances.
Well, if for chocolate, I'm going to change it for another sad story for chocolate lovers out there. I guess there's something like 60% of our chocolate comes from West Africa, and the deforesting and just extreme heat and all, quote unquote, global warming, it's really hitting the chocolate supply. So expect that to go up and expect the availability to go down. Chocolate lovers.
you can ask Dominica about this, but I have a new speciality that involves chocolate and a very secret ingredient, but she'll reveal to you what it was. I'm not giving my secrets out in this podcast right now.
Whoa.
So,
yes.
Shall we announce?
Yes. Who are we showcasing this week?
Since this is episode number 159 of the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl, we have a multidisciplinary artist, violin, other musical instruments, paintings, poetry, spoken word, pride festivals. That would be Danielle de Picciotto, who's with Alex Hacke, has a wandering group. They wandered for 7 years doing their nomadic music and are now resettled back in Berlin. So we have her on today, and we'll soon have on Alex Hacke as a follow-up. So with that said, this is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and my special guest, somebody I've known for quite a while, although I always want to know more because she has so much to show and tell. Multidisciplinary, an artist, musician, author, painter, illustrator, fashion designer. I don't know what else, a great gal. Danielle de Picciotto, one half of the group Hacked Picciotto with Alex Hacke. And we're going to talk to her about all the good things she's been doing lately. And welcome, Danielle. How are you, babe?
I'm doing okay. It's pretty cold here.
Come and sit on my lap. It's a volcano over here. The rest of Europe's on fire, and you're in Berlin. So
yep, and it's freezing. It really is.
What do you mean by
It's
freezing?
really cold.
What's the temperature? What's the temperature Celsius?
Like 13 degrees at the moment.
That's like high
really
50s
cold.
Fahrenheit. Yeah. Wow.
It's crazy.
When's the burn zone descending into Germany? It's the rest of Europe is on fire.
Well, it's supposed to be next Wednesday. It's supposed to get 37, so it's going to be like a difference of 20 degrees.
Nice.
105 in Portugal and Spain, fires in France.
But you had some hot days in Berlin just a couple of weeks ago that were like really insane. Frozen water.
Yeah, a couple of days, like for about a week, and we all thought, okay, now it's going to get a lot worse, and then suddenly it got really cold.
No, but that's been happening in Northern Europe for a while, where it's like you have this summer that starts in like late May, and you're like, oh my God, it's gonna be a hot summer. And then by July, it's cold. It's like everything shifts a couple months. It's bizarre.
There's the only prediction about the climate is it's just gonna get weirder and weirder.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I mean, here, like here it's not raining, which is really, really bad and very unusual for Germany, because Germany is usually like San Francisco, it's like pouring all the time, and it just stopped. So there's that problem that's getting really big here.
But also Berlin doesn't have those Chicago winters that it used to have, right? No. I mean, because it used to be, 20 years ago, it'd be like just full on winter, freezing in the winter, and snow. And it's really, I've noticed personally.
Yeah, when I moved here in '87, it was minus 30 degrees in the winter. Celsius.
Which is, and this is one of my favorite facts about Celsius and Fahrenheit, because those are just weird measurements. Anyways, minus 40 Celsius is also minus 40 Fahrenheit.
Whoa.
But once you start going into minus, it's not what you would think. Not to digress, but Fahrenheit is the, it's originally the English, but it's also the American measurement, which is based on Navy nautical dominance, which is relative to the human basically experience with alcohol ratio to water. So the Royal Navy, the Vikings pass it on to the Royal Navy, which passes it on, which is basically like, can you survive in the seas drinking? And which is what you had to do historically to dominate the seas. And so Fahrenheit it's a military nautical measurement, actually.
Tim Dahl at a party till we in the early morning hours can still spout facts that no one else knows and everybody should. That would be Tim Dahl. You mentioned moving to Berlin in '87, but before that, we're both kind of nomads. We met when you were nomading, I think, but you were nomading as a kid, even born in the States, but you moved all around until you were about 10 years old or so.
Yeah, I think I moved 14 times by the time I was 12, because my father was in the army, and then my mother came from Germany, so we'd go like back and forth and different states and different continents.
How was that as a child? Did you like it? Did it set the path for you, or was it frustrating? Because it can be frustrating as a kid.
It was horrifying. It was terrible. Because
Whoa.
for one, my name, I was in a new school every year, and the teacher would say, Danielle de Picciotto, this is our new, and everybody was like, what? That was already it. I was like the freak, the outsider.
Did you already have your incredible sense of style as a youngster?
No, not really. I kind of just tried to hide all the time. I tried to just disappear in a way. I was a bookworm. All I did was read. I'd be with a book everywhere, behind a book, and I had really thick glasses, and I was just like totally introverted completely. So it was kind of,
you changed that all around in your life. So moving to Berlin, then. Oh, wait, so you were moving around America, then you moved to Germany when you were still very young, and then you went back to New York to go to school.
Right.
How'd that happen?
I missed the States. I even felt worse in Germany than I did in America. So I wanted to go back as fast as possible, as soon as I could. My father was still in New York. And so I went back to New York, and I was just, I studied at Parsons. I studied at FIT. I did a lot of art and painting. I'd always done music. I started playing piano and violin really early on.
Oh, so let's say at the age of 4. According to the bio. I sat in front of the piano at the age of 2. I don't think I started playing it then.
Oh, come on, admit it, you did.
I had very cute patent leather shoes. That's all we need to know, okay?
Do you get travel anxiety? I mean, the fact that you're moving around and you have to make new friends all the time, was this traumatic for you in some social level?
At the beginning it was, especially when I was still going to school, because I just couldn't adapt. My mother was obsessed with dirndls, so she kind of knitted me dirndls until I was 9. And I'd have to go to school in dirndls, and it was just not really hip. It was just horrible.
Okay, but then at one point, so you go to school for fashion and art and drawing, and because you have an impeccable sense of style. And often I love when I see you and Alex in kind of matching outfits. I love that. It's so adorable. And so you're going to school for this. And then when was it that you moved to Berlin finally after costume designing? And what then? You moved to Berlin because 87 things were happening.
Yeah. It was amazing. I mean, I basically went to Berlin. I just want to say I studied fashion because when my parents split and we went to Germany, my mother was so poor, I only got hand-me-downs. And that's when I really got interested in fashion. After those horrible dirndls and all the hand-me-downs, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this into my own hands. I'm going to start just making my own clothes.
Right.
So I can relate to this so well because my mom, who just admitted to me she can't cut her own hair, yet she would cut my hair as a kid. And I was like, wait a second. So I was like, there was rebellion pretty quickly.
Well, and it's why you still rebel against haircuts, Tim. I offer you one all the time.
You cut my hair sometimes, Lydia.
That's right, because I'll better than your neck. That's all I know. So you started making your own clothes, and you actually got a job as a costume designer, which must have been fun in theater. That must have been grand.
Right. I was offered a job, so that's why I went back to Germany to do like costumes for this huge advertising agency and theater company. And then I went to visit a friend in Berlin. She invited me to come, and I had actually planned to go back to New York after, because it was a nice job, but I missed New York. So I went to Berlin to visit this friend, and she was living in this huge factory, like one of those typical Berlin factory spaces in the 80s, huge,
right?
Huge, like 600 quadratmeter. I don't know how much.
A lot of space.
Yep. Well, I mean, even the apartments were also huge. Everything. I mean, the spaces, the apartments, the warehouses, the squats. Even, I mean, nobody really had. There was squats, but there was just space.
There was space, and it cost $15 a month.
That low. Yeah.
Right. So I was like, wow. And the people that were living there were very eclectic. And amongst others, the keyboarder of Nick Cave was living there, Roland Wolf. And so because there was like all these different people living there, I got to know like the whole Berlin scene within, I think, 4 days. Like Neubauten were there, the Bad Seeds were there, and all of their, all the different bands, Crime in the City Solution. And I was like, I've died. I've gone to heaven. This is incredible. I'm staying.
Right.
And so they had this like little suitcase storage space over the bathroom. They said, if you want, you can move in there. So I was like, okay, I'm moving in. I did, and I stayed.
My first place I moved in New York was like, it was a little bit bigger than a suitcase storage, but it was a loft at near the front door under a disco. So you do what you got to do.
Exactly.
When you get to where you want to get, you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, okay. So now you're in Berlin, you're doing these costumes, you're hanging out with, because that was the period for Berlin. The way, cities have different periods and different decades. And that was the period of Berlin, of that Berlin was really happening. And when was it that you actually hooked up with Alex Hacke, who, by the way, at 14 saw a Teenage Jesus concert? I love to report that little detail. 14 years old.
He did, and he mentions it often.
I mention it because I just love the fact it's so adorable.
Well, I basically met him like 1 week after I moved to Berlin, because he was in and out of my apartment at that loft, and we just were friends. But I had a lot of other boyfriends before I was going.
As we should at that age, we should.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so we basically really started working together in 2001. So
wow.
Basically like 15 years later.
A friendship before romance?
Right. A long friendship before romance, the best recipe for relationships.
That's the best setup. That's the best setup. If you're going to be a partner with someone, you better be fucking friends.
Right.
No, because a lot of people make the mistake of like, hey, sex is why I'm into this. It's like, well, it should be, but
it burns out after a short period of time if there's not a better basis for it than that. Let's face fact that the nature of chemical imbalance due to lust, sex, and insanity has a time limit. Dr. Munch. It's a scientific fact. We'll go into that some other time. So in those first few years in Berlin, everything's happening. Everything's really cheap. So you then can start pursuing all the rest of your natural born instinct for art. And also it was early on that you started the Pride Festival. What year did that happen in? The Love Parade.
Yeah. In 89. Because I was back then, I was dating a DJ club owner, Dr. Motte, his name was, and we were organizing a lot of parties because we were really interested in the whole electronic music scene and stuff. And although I was playing instruments, it was like something new to have music deconstructed like that. So it interested me. And we'd always wanted to go to Rio to like experience one of the parades there, the music and having music out in the streets, because Berlin was so, it was really the happening place, but it was very dark and it was very
closed in, right? Yeah, exactly.
And so we kind of felt like, we really feel like seeing something that's like colorful and loud and on the street, not like only in dark clubs underground.
After hours underground, in the warehouse, blah, blah.
Exactly. And so we thought, why don't we just do a parade where we have the music, the new kind of music that like really raw new music that's coming out at the moment from Detroit and from London on the street in Berlin, and just shock all the shopping housewives that are like out there on Saturday mornings with their shopping bags and like play really, really loud.
What area did you stage that in?
In the most commercial street of Berlin, because we didn't want it to be like
in Kreuzberg or Charlottenburg, right? You wanted to be. Yeah. And how did that? So you organized it. How many people came? How did that go down? The point of it was called the Love Parade.
Right. About 150 people came all in all. A lot of people made fun of us. Yeah, for the first event. A lot of people made fun of us. They were like, how uncool is that? Go dancing on the street. You must be completely insane. That's so embarrassing. And we're like, whatever. And so they, of course, all came to watch us and they would just stare at us. And at the beginning, we didn't realize it's actually not easy to dance and walk at the same time. It's not like being in a club. So we had to kind of get into that, but then it started raining, and then it was like rain, dancing in the rain. For some reason, it kind of made the sparks fly, and then all of a sudden something happened, and everybody wanted to dance with us, and so the parade became bigger and bigger.
And what a great thing, because we know that one of the overriding elements of Berlin, especially at that time, was cool, meaning no ostentatious. Dress darkly, perform darkly, dark music in dark clubs, don't make too much. It was, you said the word, dark. Don't be
very.
ridiculous. Right.
Right. And
isn't that still the vibe in Berlin? I mean, like,
pretty much.
what you're talking about kind of was novel at the time, but that's still pretty novel. I mean, if I go to Berlin, there's not street fucking music and people are dancing. That's still a thing that's contrarian.
Yeah, I mean, it's become a lot lighter than it was in the 80s. I mean, in the 80s,
fair.
it was like basically forbidden to smile. If you smiled, it was like, oh my God, she smiled.
Nice.
It's so embarrassing.
But you're smiling so far in 20 minutes and you're smiling all the time.
Right.
So you're a contrarian in Berlin, right?
She's a contrarian.
I am. I didn't really, I don't know. I somehow didn't feel comfortable not like constantly. I mean, I thought it was fascinating because, you know, you had to say existentialistic stuff all the time, nonstop to be accepted, which I thought was fascinating. And I really like philosophy and politics, you know, and all that. But fun is important too. So we kind of said, okay, we're going to do this.
Well, and exactly. I mean, the thing is, dour is one thing. Put it on the stage. I mean, that's what we share too is, look, I'm funny as fuck in my free time. I love to laugh. I'm having a good time. I don't care how serious you fucking think you are. And don't get me started because I'll quote them all and then you can go to bed unhappy.
Right. Exactly.
It's not my problem. So you originally started on piano, violin. You still play the violin beautifully, the hurdy-gurdy, the autoharp, and your music now. So I just want to talk about, first of all, you've done so many things on your own, solo things. You've written some books, you write essays, you've had a lot of installations and art exhibits. And just to describe your art, it's colorful, it's beautiful. It's like, I call it soft witchy. It's kind of, I don't like to use the word fairy-like, but it's more of a soft, earthy, witchy, elemental kind of art, bringing, you know, some of the more loving elements of witchery into it. Is that an apt description for you, my white witch?
So.
My white witch.
I like Leonora Carrington, for instance, like stuff like her, or Dorothy Tanning, you know, surrealism I love. So that's kind of what
you like. What?
Me,
you like what? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like I somehow see life that way. I often see odd things. So I try to depict that in my art.
And it's not all one style either. I mean, you have a lot of different styles and you have illustrations, you have paintings. Are your illustrations, are those pen and ink? What are you using in a lot of the black and white stuff?
Yeah, it's pen and ink.
Yeah,
and it's
beautiful.
A really, really thin pen too. So it takes forever. It's like, it's something that takes long.
And on your website, there's a lot of beautiful examples of that. I mean, and you're constantly doing, as some of us do, multiple things at once, because that's what we do.
Yeah,
that's what we do.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, one of the things that's really important for me and for Alex and for us is that we refuse to do jobs on the side.
Of course.
We're kind of like, you know, we've been doing this for such a long time now, and we think it's the right of artists to be able to concentrate on their art. So that kind of means that you have to work nonstop, 24 hours a day, you know, 365 days a year.
That's, I always say we work from 9 to 5, 9 a.m. to 5 a.m. That's our, people don't realize that at 40-hour work week would be a lot less work than what we do.
Well, and of course, the reward, and Lydia said this before, when she's just whip something off in the last second, they're like, how long did this take you to make? She's like, my whole life.
Right. That's the way it is.
To get to this point, it's, you know, it's the endless journey. What are you going to do?
Right.
So you've also been you toured a lot with Alex, with your Hacke de Picciotto 2-piece. We've played together on some of the bills. You've been all over Europe, but you were also nomading for quite a while. What was that period? When did that go? Because then, I mean, at one point we met, you're nomading for quite a long time. Then I met my friend Carla Bozilic nomading. I started to meet all these women nomading, and I became a nomad for 4 years. And I'm just like, I compare it to the way the beat writers were all nomads. And then for at a certain point, it was all of these women artists were nomading. How long was your nomadic period? Where did you go? And what was that all about?
Interesting. I didn't know that so many women are doing. That's great.
I met quite a few. I mean, wow. I would always go, you're kidding, right? And then I found myself doing it, and for my own reasons. And I'm like, after living in Barcelona, I don't want to live anywhere. I want to live. I don't know where.
Right.
I'm just going to be a nomad for a while. And that went on for 4 years. I can't even believe it went on. You, I think, did it for longer.
Yeah, we did it from 2010 into 2017, basically. And we only kind of took a break because Neubauten were going to record a new album in 2018, but we were planning to continue doing it after. But then the pandemic happened, obviously.
Right.
So we couldn't. But we basically started because of exactly that reason. You know, rents have been going up in Berlin as well. The difference between, I guess, Berlin and maybe New York is that here you still get paid nothing, is like still a poor city, you know? So we were like, okay, we're actually earning all our money only for the rent.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make sense. So what are we going to do? We're going to take on another job? No, we'll just give up on the apartment. That's the other solution.
Right.
So
And
okay.
people have to realize that nomading is a full-time job. You have to
Oh,
really
yeah.
plan where you're going next. You have to plan if you're going to a place that you're just house sitting, babysitting, cat sitting, performing, residency. I mean, and for 7 years, that's really, I mean, you have to be very acute vision. And I'm sure your organizational skills help to make all of that possible.
Thank you.
I mean, a lot of the Berliners went to Leipzig, right? In the last 20 years, because, well, that was another solution.
Right. But where did you go? I mean, I don't know if you can name all the places you went, but so you decide, okay, that's it. We're done paying the rent. We're going to sublet or give up our apartment. Where did you start off? And by the way, you got to carry what you can carry is what you can take with you. And you also have instruments.
Exactly. So we always have like one suitcase per person for clothes and electronic stuff. And then we have our instruments, which is my case with my hurdy-gurdy and my autoharp, my violin, and Alex with his bass and all of his electronic stuff.
I mean,
so
still a load. When we have,
oh yeah, it's like 100 kilos.
You were prepared as a child. You were prepared, moving all the time. What was basically set you up to feel comfortable in a scenario.
Well, I mean, but as a child, she was uncomfortable, and as an adult,
But
she overcame that.
Almost, if you talk to almost anyone on the street, that would freak them out. The decisions that you comfortably made.
But wait. Also,
Yeah.
as a child, her shit was being carried for her. As an adult, she's got to carry her own load,
Right.
and that shit gets heavy.
I'm not downplaying the heroic.
All right. So, all right, hang
effort.
on. Where'd you go? Where'd you start out? We're leaving Berlin. Where was the first place you hit? And just give us a raw trajectory of the travel log of 7 years, if you can.
Well, basically, because we didn't like have any savings to back us up. It wasn't like we were going to be able to go from hotel to hotel, obviously, you know. We had to plan 1 year and a half ahead. So we basically planned, okay, we applied for residencies, we organized tours. So first we went to Vienna. We had like a film score there we could do for 2 or 3 months. Then we had a residency in Prague where we could stay for 3 months. And then we did a tour together with Julie Cruz and
oh,
Kim
amazing.
Congo
Who unfortunately just passed, Julie Cruz.
Yeah. So with them, we toured for 3 months. And then after that, I think we went to Mexico and we were there for a month and stayed at Vinnie Signorelli's hostel in Tulum, did a couple of gigs there. Then we toured the US and
it just kept going. And the thing is, that's
Yeah.
what people also have to realize, that, you know, artists at our level, it's not that easy. I mean, we got to plan 6 months to a year in advance because our
Right.
chins are always one step above the gutter. And to think, I mean, for people who think, oh, Einstürzende Neubauten, they must be filthy rich.
Right.
No savings to speak of, because that's how we live.
Yeah.
Pretty much
And-
hand to rent.
Yeah. And, you know, Neubauten were completely ripped off by Steve-O in the 80s.
Oh,
So they should be
like-
rich, but they're not because of that.
Like a lot of other people.
Right.
I mean,
But, you know, I look behind you on the screen here, and you produce stuff, which means you have stuff because you're making stuff all the time, and so when you're nomadic, in a weird way, it's kind of liberating, because if you're somehow idle, you're just going to have stuff around you all the time because you're making stuff. So, all right, I mean, I don't know where I'm going.
That's a good point, though, Jim. So when you're nomading, right? And okay, lucky for you, a few months in each place, but you still have a desire to physically make art, to make paintings, to make drawings, to make objects. Were you able to do that on the road also? Because that is part of your income. That's part of what's on your website. It's part of what you do. It's part of what you have to offer
Absolutely.
the public. And it's part of
Yeah.
what you have to do because you have to do it. Because you
Right.
want to, because it's in you.
Yeah.
Get it
Yes.
out. Get it out.
It's a curse.
It's a blessing.
Blessing. Yeah.
It's
No,
what it is.
I mean, I just became smaller in my drawings. I would do it on paper instead of canvas. Before that, I was doing huge paintings. Then I started doing small ones or digital drawing. You know, I would do a lot of filming. I did a lot of photography. I would do a lot of collage stuff like that. So you just kind of and that's a good thing about nowadays, that you can, you know, do all those kind of things. But you're right about that it's also kind of liberating. That was an interesting thing, because before we became nomads, Alex and I were living in a house, a rented house, where we had 5 floors, and there was like a studio, and there was our, you know, guest room and blah, and it was completely full of stuff because both of us started collecting, as I think you probably do, Lydia.
Well, but you know, but the thing is, I have a very small collection because having also moved so many times that I've kind of narrowed it down. But we collect stuff no matter where you live. You collect some stuff. I try to keep it as minimal as possible, but we still collect stuff.
Right. So when we decided to become nomads, we had to get rid of it. We decided we were just going to keep the art and books, instruments, and you know, photos and stuff like that. So I think we got rid of 800 boxes.
Oh,
You know, we
honey,
sold stuff, we gave it away. We like just.
No, but I mean, when you think about it, and then you had to kind of go. First of all, how long were you living in that house?
Well, we were living in a house for 10 years.
So there's a, you know, and that, but
And
it's
then there's
still,
stuff
wait,
before.
80, that's still 8 boxes a year of stuff.
Yeah, like Alex is a really big collector. He loves collecting stuff.
See, having moved every few years, that has given me the opportunity to sell and give away. But the thing is, there's always stuff.
Yeah.
The thing about where I live, I don't know about Berlin, is I just get so much stuff off the street that it's amazing.
Right. Right.
But I mean, what do you need in the end?
Nothing, because that's the crazy thing. You know, we got rid of we kept maybe, let's say, 80 boxes. We put them in a storage room here, and we've emptied it out. We like 3 times already. So now we just have a couple of boxes left, because we realized after we'd been gone for 2 years,
right,
we didn't miss a single thing.
No, don't miss a thing.
You know,
but
So
you know,
it is
if you're sharing and you're producing, you're inevitably going to make bonds with people, and people are going to give you stuff from them. They're going to give you, and they're going to give you. I mean, and then you have more stuff. I mean,
what's interesting, Danielle, is I'm just thinking of one thing that I've had for over 40 years. And I'm like, how did I manage to keep? And they're like a size, they're smaller than my hand, 3 Fredericks of Hollywood, real fur wooden mules that my long dead aunt had left me. I'm like, how did I even manage? Where have these been throughout all these years? But it's something that I can't imagine not having.
Yeah.
Of all the things I might have had. And I'm just like, I can't even put my hand in them. That's a size 3. That's how tiny. But I'm like, I wish these could tell me where they've been this whole time, because I have them. I wasn't carrying them around with me. Interesting story. We were talking about your nomadic 7-year itch, and you discussed the first year. Did it become easier? I mean, so you were finding residencies to go to, but then also was the word out and people going, well, why don't you come here? Or was it just always like, where next? It's a long time to be a nomad.
Yeah, it is. I mean, for the first 2 years, we were like, this is the best thing we've ever done, and we're going to do this for the rest of our lives, because it's kind of like I don't know, like an extreme version of normal life. You know, it's like, so, like you're always on somehow, and everybody's friendly and everybody's happy to see you, and you're, you know, all that. But then after 2-3 years, it started becoming difficult, because we thought we were going to find, you know, maybe somewhere where like an artist's heaven, where the rents were low, and, you know, you got great jobs.
Aren't we all? Hopefully, maybe someday, a plot of land with some storage units on it. We'll all be there.
Right. Right. You know, we thought that was going to happen within maybe 18 months, 2 years. But then we noticed after like 3 years, this wasn't going to be happening.
Right.
And we realized that we were getting really exhausted because
Sure.
it's like health-wise.
Yeah.
I got really, really sick. I got like my cholesterol went up like 300%. And my doctor said, if you don't immediately change your lifestyle, you're going to have a heart attack. So I had to become vegan. I stopped drinking. I stopped smoking. We stopped, doing everything that was unhealthy.
Right.
Um,
Well, and
so
the stress as well of just, even if it seems, oh, what a bohemian lifestyle. No, there's a lot of stress involved in it.
yeah.
And even if we don't register, like I never feel I'm registering stress, but certainly there's stress.
I don't know how you do it, Lydia. Sometimes when I saw you in Tasmania and you had just been in Melbourne and Sydney and then in LA and New York. And before that, I was like, we're bad, but you're worse.
Thank you very much. I don't know how I do it. I just do it. But I'm telling you, my new secret is now I'm on turkey tail mushroom elixir. Although I'm the healthiest person I know, I've just decided to take this. And if you haven't seen Fantastic Fungi, you need to watch that. But I don't know how I do it either.
It's amazing, and you're looking amazing. You look so.
Well, the thing is about her after 10 years basically living with Lydia on the road. You can change. You can be healthy. If you're dealing with a human wrecking ball, there's so much you can do. I mean, it's like, this is a human wrecking ball. I mean, it's just destroying buildings as it passes through with physics,
Me?
Yes, you're a human wrecking ball.
I never saw my father sick one day in his life, but he did die of a sudden brain aneurysm. So I hope that's not my fate, but I don't know. It's just, I have no idea. I never get sick.
So
sick
during this
period,
of course, you had to change your lifestyle. You come to this conclusion like, okay, now we have to adapt to a new thing. But during that nomadic period, what's your masterpiece in your mind? What do you feel most proud of during that period?
Actually, to be honest, kind of the way we changed, because we kind of had the feeling that we learned a lot of things about ourselves. I mean, as a couple touring, that can be really dangerous, and being together like nonstop, 24 hours a day, 6 years in rooms that are usually not larger than your bed can be really difficult on a relationship. And so we had to we had to figure out, how are we going to stay healthy? Because we're not like 20-year-olds, both of us are in our mid-50s.
Hard to give up that lifestyle though.
Yeah, I know. But we was like,
life or death.
Life or death. The doctor told me you're going to die if you don't. And we wanted obviously to stay together. So we learned how to adapt to that kind of lifestyle, and also adapt to a new kind of way of living, which still had a lot of fun, because both of us love fun. Both of us love adventure. We're not going to we're like hyperactive people. We're never going to sit down and rest.
Right. And Alex is not a sour person either. I mean, he's pretty buoyant, which is part of what keeps you together for so long, is you are both buoyant people. Yeah. It's not as if, one is a balloon and one is an anchor that's constantly sinking into the ocean. Which can happen in relationships. Did
he stop alcohol as well?
Yeah. We both.
So, I mean, if you're an optimistic person that I sense, suddenly you've eroded depressants that you're dumping into your body every day. So there must have been a high also at the same time. Ultimately, once you shed,
once you detox,
exactly.
Detox.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the vegan part was difficult for me, because I had basically been like a total meat eater before. Alex has always been a vegetarian. So for me, that was a big, huge change. I was like, how do you do it? I don't understand. The doctor said I have to, otherwise, it's, so I was like, okay. And then
mushrooms.
Yeah. I mean, your mind changes and you start thinking in different ways of, okay, how can I make it taste so that I like it nonetheless? So
Sriracha, hot sauce.
Yeah.
Maybe your Italian roots. I mean, I always say, if I was going to become a vegetarian, I'd have to kind of maybe live in Italy, because it'd be so much easier there because the ingredients and the food. But I don't know.
Or Indian food.
Or India, sure.
Totally vegetarian. And Asian food too. I mean, like there's a lot of really great, I've
Who
learned
does-
so much about spices,
Who does the cooking? Who does the cooking now that you are living in a house, in an apartment together? Who does the cooking?
Mainly me. Alex loves doing the dishes, which sounds
I
weird.
Whoa.
I love a dishwashing man. I love a dishwashing man. But
Oh,
look,
it's-
I love knives. I love knives. I love fire. I like chopping things up into little pieces. What's not to love about very meditative cooking?
But you know, even Lydia on the road, like, you know, because obviously when you're on the road and you don't have time to even cater yourself, so people are providing all stuff, and a lot of times it's very rich. There's a lot of meat, and Lydia almost all the time is like, at some point she's like, let's find an Asian kitchen.
Oh,
Right.
often. Yeah. But I do love tasting Tim's meat occasionally.
Jesus.
You know what I mean. You're the one who'll often get the boar's head.
So do you ever relapse? Do you ever, I mean, you live in Germany, you don't want German pork every now and then. Do you ever relapse?
Not anymore. I did at the beginning. I once had a boeuf bourguignon at Jim White's place.
Did it make you
actually.
sick?
Oh no, it was so good.
You don't have like a Bavarian Schweinhaxe or anything like this? No.
No, I didn't like eating meat beforehand anyway, so that
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
for me. No.
You know, there comes a point where, you know, look, things have to change one way or the other.
Yeah.
There's no, you have to adapt to the situation, to the environment, to what your body and mind needs. That's just a simple, basic. I was almost going to say electronics, but it's the opposite of electronics. It's the simple mechanism of forward movement.
Right. It's
You have to do it. It's development.
Oh,
It's
yeah. And it's great when you notice that you still can change and be flexible and adapt to something, you know, because isn't that what people always say happens when you get older, that people become less flexible?
Well,
So for us, it was like, we're getting more
Oh.
flexible.
No,
Great.
I love generalizations, and I think women are much better at adapting and being flexible as they age. And the grumpy old man, that generalization is true, because it's rooted in rigidity. I mean, I've done it this way my whole life, and this is how it's going to be. And
that's why I prefer men at least half my age or younger, because they're still flexible in more ways than one. Just saying.
Well, I'm really lucky with Alex in that way, because he's extremely
flexible.
He's like, you know, he's Libra and what is his other sign? Jungfrau, Virgo. So he's like air, and you know, he'll just fly away on a whim.
Right. No, he's a lovely person.
does he ever scream out "Das ist Verboten"? Does he ever get really German with his rules?
Sometimes
Whoa.
he likes doing that.
So the pandemic hit. Now, for
Right.
somebody that is multidisciplinary and that has many forms of creation to do, and probably some form of a home studio, as I see behind you, I mean, other than the abortion of touring, what was the effect for you with the pandemic?
Well, I don't know if you felt that way, but I could sleep for the first time in years. That was so nice.
I had a great time during the lockdown. I have to say, I'm still kind of in semi-lockdown, but I mean, I did a lot of things during lockdown,
Yeah.
including this podcast.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Same here. I think the first 4 months we were like, wow, and we just slept. You know, we hadn't slept for 10 years. We had jet lag nonstop, as you probably did too. You know?
Right. Well,
So it was
sleeping,
like-
as I like to say, for amateurs. Yeah. But
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
Actually,
it was-
I'm getting more used to more sleep now, because that's how long it's taking me to acclimate, because my sleep is bizarre anyway. But I find it, especially in the dog days of summer, when it's a really like a nice breeze, luxurious afternoon. I love those naps, honey. I love to
Yeah.
nap because it feels
Yeah.
luxurious. It's a very different
Totally.
feeling.
Well, you both have Italian roots, so you know, after that lunch, no pun intended, you have a little siesta. You want to like get there and
You know, look, my eating habits are so bizarre. It's like 5 a.m. I'm very hungry. I might not eat till like 7
again,
p.m.
Lydia, your Italian roots. You have like Da Vinci sleeping habits, which is like sleep a couple hours, work, sleep a couple hours, work.
That's true. I have the habits, and Danielle, you could do the painting. So I think we make
right. And that luxurious feeling about it is exactly what I mean, because usually we're so driven,
on tour, right? Planning.
I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to get,
and the mental exertion put into just conceptualizing where to do what next. That is where the genius comes in. That is actually what our greatest success is, that we can manage over all this period of time through different projects. But it's really, that is where the mind fuck comes in. You constantly have to be thinking in advance. What are you going to do? Where can you do it? Not every place wants everything.
Exactly. And you're constantly adapting. Oh, this and that and this and that. Your brain just never stops. And you're like, I have to get up. I have to do this. I have to do that. And wake up in the night. I get up. I write a lyric. I do. It's like.
Do you beat yourself up? I mean, you're obviously you have a long list of things that you're trying to chip away at day to day. Do you beat yourself up to not achieve them all the time? And did you overextend and then you're just okay with just like chipping away at a few things, or do you pick one thing? I mean, what's your process?
Well, I usually do too much. I usually am like multitasking all the time, not because I want to achieve something, but because it's just like such a drop, like this, I'm being pushed by it. It's terrible. It never stops pushing. So
your imagination is bigger than your physical ability. And you don't have assistants. I mean, I'm blown away. Lydia actually is really efficient with realizing her designs. I feel like I'm not. I try to be, and it's like the struggle is: do I beat myself up for not realizing? If your imagination is huge, it can be devastating sometimes.
And I want to put this, for instance, I mean, one of my big inspirations, Hubert Selby, he only really wrote 5 books in his life. That's not very much. So I never beat myself up, but I'm not being woken up by, I need to do something, but I have an efficiency in production. So I don't, and some people, we know people like this, that if they're not doing something every day that's creative, they just can't stand it. If it burns in your blood, that's great, because it burns in your blood, but it doesn't burn in my blood. So that, look, I need to read stuff. I need to experience things. I need to be lazy. I need to do all kinds of things that are not deemed creative to benefit the creation. I have no guilt about that. Whatever comes out, and I don't have a bunch of doodles under my bed that haven't been passed out or applied, which some people have volumes of unpublished stuff. So it's really, I mean, the point is this: some artists have a boiling in the blood that forces creation. That's the way it is. And I never feel any animosity towards somebody whose output is less. It's what the output is, not how much of it there is. I don't expect anyone to do what I do or what you do. It's we do what we do. Whatever anybody does, you do it at your own pace and at your own rate. Some of the most amazing creative people have released a very limited amount of things.
So leave me this. Do you view yourself as prolific?
No. But Danielle. Of course she's prolific.
Do you see yourself as prolific?
I don't really think about it. I'm just like thinking of all I just have these things popping in my head all the time. And I'm like, oh, wow,
gotta do that.
The good thing is that Alex is quite different. He loves being lazy. He concentrates on one thing at a time. And I really, really admire that, because I feel like I'm torn in different pieces. Also because, I do visual art, I do music, I do spoken word. So it's like all these different areas. And Alex kind of says, he could be drawing too. He's talented, but he doesn't. He says, I'm concentrating on music. And he just does one thing at a time. And he does it at a leisurely pace, but intensely. And he gets everything done. And, he's constantly doing things.
Very different procedural.
Danielle, I can relate to you, Danielle, 1,000,000%. And last time I was in Los Angeles, Ron Athey, and he's older and he's been around and he's wise. And he's like, Tim, I don't load my to-do list. I do one thing at a time. And I
Right.
don't, that's it. I have better success if I just do one thing, what's in front of me, one thing at a time.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like I've done.
I can't.
so-
I can't.
I feel like I've done so much stuff that nobody's seen or heard anyway. That it's like,
Oh, I've seen and heard a lot of it.
yeah,
And I
well,
love it.
yeah, haven't seen all of it yet, my friend. Don't worry.
Oh, nor do I want to.
Come on over here. And that's
Nor do I want to.
That's right. I have prevented you from hurting your own psyche.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not going to name names, but every now and then someone comes out. Lydia's like, "You're not being nice," and she goes, "I am being nice." In other words, you don't want to see it all. There's a lot of other stuff going on.
Well, everything I've seen, Lydia, I love.
Well,
I do too. I do too.
Well, this is our own love parade here at the Lydians.
Right.
Anyway, darling, what else is coming up? I mean, now we're on hold. You just released an album on Mute, who's released so many great people. Of course, they always avoided me, but there's still time. Doesn't matter. They finally released something by Picciotto, your last album last year. Can't tour right now. What's going on? What's up in the immediate future?
Well, we do have tour shows throughout the year, and we're planning a US tour for next year. And while Alex is touring with Neubauten, you know, they've just done 29 shows.
Yeah, that was I know about 5 people independently talked to me. They saw this latest tour in Europe and they were all blown away. They thought it was an incredible show.
We'll talk to him soon. We'll make an arrangement. But okay, so that was going on. So you had peace to yourself.
So I had peace to myself, and it was the first time in 10 years that I was on my own.
Must have been glorious.
It was amazing.
Of course it was. I love being alone.
I was like, wow.
What freedom, huh?
What a different feeling.
Right.
And so I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I'm doing a catalog of all my art.
Perfect.
And
about time and wonderful.
Yeah,
Great.
so it's fun to do that because it's a lot of stuff that I haven't seen for a long time and I forgot about. And I was like, okay, so it's kind of like, you know, when you go back like that, you sort through your life and you're like, what have I done?
And by the way, I think that's really important for artists to do. And I tell them that all the time, especially prolific people. I'm like, sometimes you just have to pile up what you've done, whether it's CDs or artwork, so that you can appreciate what you've done. Because sometimes we're just doing it. But you also have to absorb what you've done and appreciate it that you have done that. Yeah. Because we're so busy just doing. And I think it's really important for people to see what they've done and to see that what's next.
Yeah.
And I think catalogs are really important. I mean, like compilation records, catalogs are important. Art books are important. So this is going to be like an art book of your artwork that you're putting together. Right. Fantastic.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because I had completely forgotten that I did a lot of objects before I became a nomad. And I'd really forgotten about that. And I was like, wow, I forgot about that part of me that likes to work with, you know, wood or metal or whatever. And it just disappeared completely. So it's just like going back to parts of yourself which you'd forgotten and like, interesting. And what am I going to do with that? Or is it over?
And fun.
Yeah,
and fun.
It's totally fun. Wow, that's difficult. That's really difficult.
Well, I'm going to answer it for you, Danielle.
Thank you.
Because as women, we would still be creative. And it doesn't matter if that creativity does not manifest in a physical object or a sound object. As women, we always have to be the more creative of the species for a variety of reasons. And whether that involves being, cooking, dressing, makeup, seduction, child rearing, sex, we are always more creative. So we are always creative. And my greatest creation is myself.
Well, that's still artistic. If you had a vocational gig in another alternative universe.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it would be like I think it would be like maybe supporting artists in as, curating or writing about them or.
I don't know why I just thought of an architectural gynecologist, because I think it's, I don't even know what that means.
What is that?
Well,
Lydia would be a lumberjack.
I've been there. Deep sea fisher.
Oh, no.
Surgeon.
She would be a forensic detective.
Well, that's in this life I am. But anyway, when I was thinking, I mean, I always tell people, become an architect or a scientist or a doctor. We need better chemicals. We need better drugs. But now suddenly I'm thinking of an architectural gynecologist. I mean, and I'm not thinking necessarily for there's, I mean, I always remember in the front page of the LA Weekly, there was always an ad for vaginal rejuvenation. I'm thinking of penile rejuvenation. I'm just thinking anal bleaching. I'm not sure I really wanted to go there. This is the Lydian spin. I think we're done with this. Thank you, Danielle. We're creative no matter what we do.
Oh my God.
Wonderful to talk to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
And hope to see you soon, my friend.
Lovely meet.
Yes.
Danielle, I think we met before, but lovely seeing you. So
yes.
Next time I'm in Berlin, we'll hang out.
Yes, please. Come to Berlin.
Send my regards to Alex and tell him I'll be coming after him soon for an episode.